The woman was horrified to discover a terrifying scene downstairs. A homeless man had fused with the pavement. His skin and body had become one with the road. Rescue workers tried to help him, but the man's legs had already turned into part of the asphalt and could not be separated. But that wasn't the scariest part. As the woman looked around in shock, an eye suddenly grew out of the wall behind her. This is Else, a 2024 Lovecraftian horror film from France and Belgium. It's one of the weirdest movies I've ever seen. The story begins with an emergency announcement. In an apartment in Brussels, Belgium, a designer named Stanley is working on his computer as usual. But just as he's brainstorming design ideas, he gets a sudden call from the community office. He learns that a contagious disease has broken out. Stanley immediately opens his laptop and finds a newly released emergency bulletin from the CDC. Apparently, a strange virus is spreading rapidly across Europe. Once infected, strange fleshy bumps grow on the skin, along with bizarre cracks and bark-like textures. Thinking it might just be a skin disease, Stanley calls his girlfriend to warn her to be careful at the party. But just as the call connects, the CDC updates the alert. The virus is far more dangerous than anyone expected. Startled, Stanley rushes to the bathroom, strips off his clothes, and checks his body for any signs of infection. Relieved to find nothing unusual, he relaxes, just as his girlfriend Alice arrives at the door. She explains that her neighborhood was abruptly locked down that morning. Told to remain inside due to a flu outbreak, Alice fled just in time with her luggage. Stanley tries to examine her for infection, but Alice throws herself into his arms. The two are soon lost in passion. 3 minutes later, Alice heads to the bathroom. Stanley, still uneasy, uses a magnifying glass to inspect her thoroughly. Once he's sure she's clean, he finally feels at ease. As they chat about how this virus might have originated, an ambulance siren blares from downstairs. Pulling back the curtain, Stanley sees emergency workers surrounding a homeless man, whose body has fused into the ground. One staffer tries to pull him free, but the man's legs have become part of the street. There's no way to separate them. With no other choice, the team sets up barricades, leaving the poor man to continue merging with the pavement. Stunned by what they just witnessed, Stanley and Alice are frozen, but the horror is just beginning. That evening, the CDC issues another update. Scientists now believe this virus is unlike anything ever seen before. Once infected, people not only experience skin changes, they begin to merge with whatever material they're in contact with. If someone touches stone while infected, they may literally become a stone man. Sensing the looming danger, Stanley prepares for the worst. The next morning, he seals all doors and windows with plastic sheets and disinfects everything. Ever thoughtful, Stanley even warns his friends, but they laugh it off, too busy partying to care. Unbeknownst to them, the virus is spreading much faster than scientists predicted. In just one day, thousands of new cases erupt globally. France is hit the hardest, with 98% of its population infected. But Stanley doesn't know that the real nightmare is only just beginning. 2 days later, their apartment loses power. Stanley tries calling the community hotline, but the line is constantly busy. Fortunately, being a fitness enthusiast, he modifies his exercise bike into a makeshift generator. Using the limited electricity, Alice powers up her laptop to check for updates, but there's no internet. Frustrated, she notices a small stone on the floor. Assuming it fell from the wall, she ignores it until another one drops. Worried, she crouches to investigate and sees something terrifying. Stanley rushes in after hearing her scream and is stunned to see a pile of rubble beneath the table, and something is moving inside it. Upon closer inspection, he realizes it's their neighbor George, who has turned into a heap of stone. Apparently, George had been spying on Stanley and Alice through a hole he drilled in the wall. Unfortunately, during one of his peeping sessions, he was infected and fused with the wall.